Okay, we should be live. I think we are.
Everyone just let us know if we're live.
So hello, hi everybody. These are my friends No Market Media. They're in Michigan. Say hi. Tell them who you are.
Yeah. My name is Matt,
And my name's Randall.
and yeah, we're with No Market Media, like doing video and television reviews. A lot of nerd stuff mostly.
That's all good
Well,
here.
no, we do geek stuff on this channel.
That's big geek stuff on this channel.
Okay, Baked Bean confirms we are live. I don't know what's going on with Thrash. He's taking his time, but we'll just get him in when he's ready. So I didn't really have a topic today. I figured we'd just go by whatever the commenters want to talk about. But I did want to apologize for not putting Jurassic Park as my movie for 1993.
I mean, what did you end up choosing?
I chose
Jurassic
Demolition
Park was
Man.
such an omission.
I chose
Ooh,
Demolition
okay.
Man, which I like Demolition Man a lot, but it's not better than Jurassic Park. I was just being contrary, I think. I'm not really sure why I did that.
Sometimes you don't go for like the obvious one. It's like, oh yeah, of course, Jurassic Park.
Hold on.
Oh, look.
He messed up the windows.
Yeah.
It's all Thrash's fault.
I'm afraid to move.
There he is.
Can you hear and see me okay, guys?
Yep,
Well,
I can see and hear you, Thrash.
Super. Just a few technical problems. I think I have worked them all out.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, what it is this microphone won't stay put. The the new computer I hadn't set up for a lot of things that I thought were already installed.
Oh, okay. I'll get you on screen in just a minute.
Take your time.
So, Matt and Randall, this is Thrash.
Hello.
Hey, Thrash.
He's kind of become a permanent fixture on my channel. Not sure why.
Nice.
Mr. Matt, Mr. Grant. Oh, which one is which, by the way?
I'm Matt.
I'm short.
I'm both short and fat. That'll distinguish us. They'll be short and short round, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. There's lots of traction on a short run series now.
Yeah, especially with everything everywhere all at once coming out, and yeah.
Believe it or not, I still haven't seen that movie. I really,
Very
really,
good
really
movie.
want to, but I still haven't seen it.
You should.
I wouldn't say that it's my favorite movie of 2022, but I would say it was probably the movie I had the most fun watching, like in like the moment watching, like the next surprising thing that comes out of the movie and the next thing too. I had a lot of fun watching that movie.
Okay, so
And you
what
might
was
never
your
look at
favorite?
hot dogs.
What was your favorite movie from last year?
Me, it was actually The Northman. The Northman was actually my favorite movie of the last year. I don't know why. I think I went back and saw that movie, I think like 3 times, and then watched it again. I don't know when it came out on like streaming. I watched it again. Oh, it's just something about it. Like it was kind of like Dune from like the year before. Where every time I went and saw it, there was like more that I was liking about the movie, like a different part of the movie that made it a little bit more enjoyable and stuff too. So, and that's why I would say, like, I wouldn't say it was like the best experience I had watching it the first time. I really enjoyed it and stuff. I would say Everything Everywhere All at Once was my favorite, like, first time experience. But a movie that I just enjoyed for the year and kept going back to enjoying, I would say is The Northman.
Fair enough. What about you, Randall?
Mine's unconventional.
Which is good. Makes for interesting.
I liked X a lot.
Okay.
A lot
I know
of
there's a
people-
lot of other stuff
I know, like
going
X.
on in that movie.
Mhm.
But our movie going experience with that particular other person that didn't get it made it stand out so well for me.
Mhm. I will say one thing. I enjoyed X a lot. And I was so excited for Pearl and having both those movies come out in the same year, too. I was actually a bit disappointed, like watching Pearl. Pearl's still an okay movie, But I really did enjoy X for what it is and everything the movie was doing. But I don't know. Yeah, X was a fun movie.
Thrash's turn.
Well, I'm going to feel hopelessly left out here because, see, I kind of tune out to the theaters with the whole pandemic thing. I don't
Mhm.
go into movie theaters anymore. I'm also something of a hopeless romantic as far as films go. I will dig out my old copy of Return of the Living Dead or
Mhm.
Repo Man,
Mhm.
and I just I rewatch my old movies constantly. So I never get into the theaters. In fact, here's one for you. I actually went to the theater for the first time since I stopped going when they shut them down in Massachusetts. I was actually in a theater in Massachusetts when they shut the theaters down in Massachusetts. Last night I went to a movie theater and I saw King Ghidorah.
Awesome.
Wow.
Nice.
A local cinema here has taken to showing old vintage. They call it Splatter Day night.
Nice.
That's
I
awesome.
know, I know. They show old what kaiju slash and gore films from the 80s. The next one we're going to see is actually 2001, and I'm ecstatic. I have never seen 2001 on the big screen.
Really? That's an
First time I
experience.
saw 2001, I saw it on a black and white portable TV. I'm dating myself now. But, but I'm going to finally get to see it on the big screen, and I am euphoric about that. But yeah, it's funny. I go back to the theater for the first time in 2.5 years, and what do I watch? A 60s kaiju film.
Well, yeah, like you, I don't get to the theaters as often as I want to. So I didn't see a lot of movies last year. I mean, I saw all the Marvel movies, and I saw the Batman. I really liked the Batman. I thought it was great.
Mhm.
The Batman was good.
Other than that, I don't even remember seeing anything from last year. But yeah, Thrash, I saw 2001 when Christopher Nolan did his re-release in IMAX theaters. I saw that in IMAX. That was something else.
Wait, Christopher Nolan did a re-release of 2001?
Yeah, he did. He found the original print, well, the existing print, the original print. He cleaned it up, digitally remastered it, and released it in IMAX in like select cities throughout the country.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. And that was for its 50th anniversary, I think. So it was only a few years ago.
So he's going to do 2010 next.
I hope so. Yeah.
I like 2010, and for some reason
We
that
all
one
like
kind of fell through
2010.
the cracks. I love
We all
2010.
do. There's an ongoing joke there. I
Oh,
think
gotcha,
2010 is actually a better movie than 2001.
It's definitely
Even
more
though
fun to
2001's
watch.
more.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot easier to watch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can certainly give you that. Super.
Let's see.
But
Baked Bean wanted to bring up The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, yet another movie from last year that I wanted to see but never got
Mhm.
to. And The Black Phone. Is that the one with Ethan Hawke?
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't see that either. Nor did I see the Hellraiser remake. I
haven't seen the Hellraiser remake. Did you watch Prey?
I did watch Prey. I did really, really like Prey. That was really good.
I mean, that's the best thing since Predator 2. Really.
I didn't mind Predators, the one with Adrian Brody. But I would say Prey is better. Yeah.
I like Predators. I'm one of the few group of people that like thinks they tried to do something different that moved the story forward.
Yeah, I thought so.
Because Prey's still a prequel,
That's true.
but it is good.
I'm thinking. Yeah, I didn't
don't let
even.
it happen again.
It's dangerous.
Sorry.
You'll see smoke coming out of my
Sorry.
ears. I didn't see Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, the third one, because the second one, I didn't like it at all. So
You
I
didn't miss a thing.
that's what I hear. Yeah. I didn't
Can you
mind.
believe
I didn't mind the first Jurassic World. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a neat idea that they could have done more with. But the sequel in the mansion with the clone, it was just, wasn't very good. I didn't like it. So I wasn't
Okay.
even interested in the third one.
You still haven't seen that, right?
I still have not. So I watched the first Jurassic World movie, and then I watched the third one. I completely skipped the second one. I just going from my friends like, all right, what happens in the second one? And they're like you said, mansion clone. I'm like, all right, are we talking Resident Evil or are we talking, Jurassic World here? But yeah, so so I watched Jurassic World. I wasn't a big fan of the third one either. I kind of honestly, I could have fallen asleep probably in the theater for a bit of that movie with the nice comfy seats and stuff, and it was earlier in the morning and before I was heading to work that day, so
Sounds like number 2 is going to become like the Star Trek 5 of the franchise.
Oh, don't go there.
Let's not say things we can't take back.
Star Trek 5 is criminally underrated.
It's both underrated and also terrible. Like I appreciate what it's trying to do. It really does feel like the original series. But at the same time, the budget and I don't know, there's something about the earnestness of it that is not, it doesn't feel genuine. I don't know exactly what I mean. But yeah, it's definitely the worst Star Trek movie, but it's not that bad.
Is it worse
Well,
than Into Darkness, though?
It's like
well,
pizza. Even when pizza's bad, it's not that bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, Thrash. Yes, nice.
I mean, the worst Star Trek movie is still a Star Trek movie.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're right. I haven't seen Into Darkness in a long time, but I've seen Star Trek 5 like within the last year. So obviously, I must like Star Trek 5 more. You're right.
I watched Into Darkness, and I immediately have to go watch Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a pale imitation of Wrath of Khan. Yeah.
It is a terribly pale imitation.
I did like the third one, though.
I love
Star
Wrath
Trek
of Khan.
Beyond, the third one of the reboot. I liked that one. It got a little clunky, but I thought it was way better than In the Darkness.
What'd you say, Thrash?
I was just saying, I loved Wrath of Khan.
Well, of course.
Wrath
Everybody
of
loves
Khan. Yeah, I was going to say,
saved the whole franchise.
Wait. I don't think that Gene Roddenberry loved it too much.
Well, okay. Fair point. Gene Roddenberry was very mad about Wrath of Khan, but, he had his chance.
He did.
Gene Roddenberry got mad about everything towards the end, I'm afraid. He really... I feel as though he felt the world somehow betrayed him. He gave us this wonderful gift, tried to bring more gifts, and everyone's like, yeah, we're all set. He's like, wait, I got more. Well,
that's okay. Yeah.
I still
George
think he
Lucas
could have gone
did that
somewhere
too.
with the whole Dylan Hunt saga. I would have liked to have seen Dylan Hunt, if not a TV series, maybe on the big screen. That's a great premise.
Well, I'm going to take a minute to say hi to all the people who are in the comments. I see Danny Staten's here, Baked Bean, of course, Keith, Indy Spoats, Zooper's here. Yeah, I think that's everybody who I've seen in the comments so far. So hi, nice to see you all. Thanks for coming on a Sunday. Let's see. Indy says, is the world ready to stare into the abyss of Bob Balaban's nostrils if we have 2010 in IMAX? It's kind of fun.
I'm ready. That's a cast that you don't even think about all of the crazy actors that are in it.
I know, right? Like, you've got John Lithgow's in it, and nobody even remembers that.
John Lithgow and
Helen Mirren.
Right. Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider, of course. Yeah. The Russian
Hal.
guy, whose name I can't remember. Anyway, yeah.
The Russian guy, yes.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I'll never forget what's his name.
Baked Bean's trying to start a fight. He's explain why this statement is true. DS9 is the best Trek. I'm personally going to agree with you, but
yeah,
I think so.
The statement's true.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, there's no fight.
Explain why, though. Why would you think Deep Space Nine, though, is best Trek?
Because it goes dark without losing all of the hope and world that Gene Roddenberry wanted to set up.
That is an excellent
like
answer.
even though they're are dark parts of it, really dark parts of it, including the very famous "I can live with it."
Yeah, in the pale
At the end of the
moonlight.
day, it's all about that hope that Gene Roddenberry wanted for the future. That's why DS9 is better. TNG doesn't do that. TNG doesn't go dark and still come out hopeful.
Yeah,
Look at
TNG
Picard.
still has all the idealism and like purity to it. It doesn't try to stray too far from that. Whereas Deep Space Nine doesn't mind getting into the weeds and dealing with more messy parts of the human condition. But again, like you said, it doesn't lose Gene Roddenberry's ideals at the end of the day. So yeah, I agree. And Gene Roddenberry, I mean, it was the first thing produced after he died. I don't think he would have liked it that much. I don't think he would have hated it, but I don't think he would have liked it that much. I think he would hate New Trek.
He would have liked Voyager.
He would have loved Voyager.
He would like Voyager.
Yeah, Voyager's right up his alley, I think.
Episodic.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, most New Trek I don't think he'd like. He might like Strange New Worlds, but that's about it. I still haven't
Strange
seen
New Worlds is as close as it gets.
to the original, yeah. I still haven't seen the animated ones, Prodigy and Lower Decks. I still haven't watched those yet. I got to, but I haven't done it yet.
Prodigy's good. I'm not a fan of Lower Decks. If you think that there's things that Gene Roddenberry wouldn't have liked, there's lots of Easter eggs in it,
Right.
which is fun. But I just don't like that humor in Star Trek like that.
Now, what do you think of the original animated series from the early 70s?
Look, I grew up watching it, so I still have a soft spot in my heart for it. Randall, you were going to say
I'll
something?
admit I haven't seen
Go ahead.
that.
You haven't seen
You
the
haven't
original
seen it
animated
yet?
series? Wow.
I haven't watched the original Trek animated series.
It's
Gene
available
Roddenberry
somewhere.
says it's not canon.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not canon for sure.
The debate goes on. I don't think it's canon myself. Actually, it was too lighthearted. It was made for children, even though Alan Dean Foster wrote a lot of the scripts for it. I have trouble swallowing the concept that it's canon. That being said, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, Zuper has a question for you, Thrash, because you're the one who could probably answer this. What was that horrible sci-fi series Keir Dullea made in Canada? He thinks it was called Star Lost or something. So obscure, weird sci-fi TV. I'd ask you.
Well, it was called, I believe, it was called The Star Lost, and it was the original concept came from Harlan Ellison, and it was about a generational colony ship going to another star system. The problem was, over the course of its trek, it forgot that's what its mission was, and the whole thing breaks down. One of the things that the humans on Earth did before they sent it out was they made a lot of separate pods with people of different sort of with different backstories. Some were Amish, some were like a military caste system. The idea being, when it got to another planet, possibly one or more groups would be emotionally prepared to actually colonize it because they didn't know what they were coming into. And speaking of 2001, Keir Dullea stars in it actually, and he
That's Dave,
plays
yeah.
this one guy who actually breaks out of his pod, realizes it's a ship, and goes from pod to pod and having little adventures. Again, it's like I always say, all good science fiction from that time period seems to have been a mirror of The Fugitive. And this one was, because each week he's in a completely different they're all human, but a completely different sort of society setup, and hilarity ensues. And again, he's trying to figure out what happened, because the implication is something went awry with the colony ship, and it's just sort of going on and on and on without any prospect. Similar in many ways, actually, to Captive Universe, for you Harry Harrison fans out there.
See, this is why I
hope
have
that answers
Thrash
your
on my.
question.
This is why I have Thrash on my channel, because anytime I think I know a lot about sci-fi, Thrash just shows me something I've never even heard of before. So.
Nice.
Okay, I mean, the amount of sci-fi shows that start off the way that Thrash just described that, and then go completely
off the rails.
bonkers. Can fill a graveyard.
Nicole Baker's
Very
here.
much so.
Hi, Nicole. How's it going? She says she hasn't seen any Star Trek at all. That's bizarre. I don't know what to make of that.
TOS?
Like at all.
What
Like
would
any
you
Star
start
Trek.
with?
Yeah, where would
I
you
always
start?
tell people to
travesty.
start with TNG.
Start with TNG. That's how you would start off. If you're
You would
new
start
to
with
Star
a
Trek.
counter at Farpoint, really? You think that that's going to get people into Star Trek?
I love Encounter at Farpoint.
Okay.
You
I
gotta
will go
start
back
with
and
TOS.
rewatch it. I mean, it's Q. It's literally the first.
I think it would
Episode.
depend on who we're talking to. Like, if it's somebody who's young, I wouldn't start there. But if it's like an older person like us, yeah, either TNG or TOS, depending on how much older we're talking.
Mhm.
I personally introduced my wife to Star Trek with Enterprise,
That's cool.
and then we watched TNG. Because I figured it would be, it's newer.
Yeah.
It looks more polished.
Exactly.
That,
Yeah.
that was one thing that she might like.
I watched a lot of Enterprise with who is now my wife, when Enterprise was still like on the air, like when it was still airing. Like she would come over to my house and we'd just watch Enterprise every, was it Friday night or something? So yeah. Solid basis for a
UPN.
relationship. Yes, on UPN. But she, like me, her parents also were into Star Trek, so she grew up with Star Trek just like I did. So I didn't have to worry about where to start.
For newer Trek and stuff, I have really enjoyed Strange New Worlds and stuff. I just don't know if that would be a good starting point for someone or whatever. I guess maybe depending, or if they want something that's like, what's new right now kind of thing, I guess.
There's a lot of lore
Yeah, it's kind of
that
hard
you
to
kind of
just
have to
jump
know
right in
to
there.
really
Mhm.
enjoy.
Yep.
Because you got to know who Commander
Really
Pike
holds
is. And you
against
got to know
kind of
some like
TOS.
story beats from Discovery. Just because like it
Mhm.
basically is a continuation of Discovery season 2 after they went to the future. But it's better than Discovery, in my opinion. And yeah, it feels like it's the most like the original series I think Star Trek's ever been since the original series. Let's see. Yeah, Danny Staten keeps saying Pons is a walking encyclopedia, and he is. Although I've never actually seen him walk.
Arthritis is getting pretty bad. I gotta tell you, the Northeast, we've had nonstop rain for 5 months. The
Wow.
dampness is literally crippling me. Not figuratively, literally crippling me.
Right.
Stairs are becoming like a source of anxiety for.
I understand. I had like a really bad case of sciatica a few years back, and I could barely stand. Like I couldn't do anything until I had to have some back surgery. Now I feel fine, but I'm always dreading it coming back. Like every time I feel any kind of like weird cramp in my leg, I'm like, it's back. But it hasn't happened yet.
Keeping their fingers crossing.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Final Image 6 says TNG is hard to watch until season 2.
Okay, to be fair, that's my doppelganger,
Oh, okay.
and it's Final Mage 6.
Oh, Final Mage. I can't
Because-
read. I'm sorry.
Because when I made that, I was really big into like Final Fantasy and stuff.
Right. Okay. But no,
Then the game started to suck.
I agree that season 2 definitely starts to get better, and season 1 has a lot of rough edges. But season 1 has a couple of episodes that you have to watch, like Conspiracy, the one with the little bugs. That's a great episode.
Do you have to watch that?
I mean, it never goes anywhere. Like, it leaves on a cliffhanger that never goes anywhere outside of, like, I think there's like a novel or something. So no, you don't have to watch it, I guess. But then you start season 2 and you start with Pulaski. Now, I will defend Dr. Pulaski, but still, not many people would.
I would. Pulaski's like an McCoy.
Kind of.
factor,
Yeah,
you know?
she's
You get
definitely
that
more in the
feel.
McCoy model, yeah. I think she was a more interesting character than Crusher, but I still like Crusher more. I think Pulaski just had more to her character. Like, there was more to build on, whereas Crusher's just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the only interesting thing about her backstory
Plus you get
is
Moriarty.
Well, oh yeah, plus you get Moriarty, which fantastic. And season 2 also has Measure of a Man, which is one of the best episodes of Next Generation.
Yep.
Let's see. Danny Staten says, I love Star Trek. My wife loved Star Wars. The divorce was epic. You can love all.
Oh, yeah,
Can't you love both?
yeah. I think you can.
You can totally do both.
I mean, Randall and Matt
It's
here
not
are
one or
proof
the other.
that you can have both. It's okay.
Well, of course, Star Wars isn't really science fiction now, is it?
No, it's
No,
fantasy.
space opera.
Yeah,
It's
space opera. Good.
fantasy.
Fantasy. Yep. Yep.
But I've started some epic battles over that one. Like
The line-
epic.
The
Like,
line can
I
get
think-
blurry.
mhm.
I think when it was relatively new, it was kind of fantasy, and now it's just Star Wars.
Yeah, now it's
Star
just
Wars is
its
its
own
own
thing.
genre.
Yeah.
It's a thing of its own. Yeah, you're right. I couldn't agree with you more.
Because you go watch a movie or a show, and you're like, "Well, this doesn't feel like Star Wars."
That's true.
But you watch a
has a feeling.
Kurosawa film, and this feels like Star Wars.
Yup.
I liked what the Mandalorian was going for. It wasn't trying to be science fiction. It wasn't trying to be fantasy. It was trying to be a Western. And I thought that was
Yes.
actually pretty cool. It was a neat idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's true. Crusher lost me with the ghost.
I think it's interesting how that's like the meme or whatever
I
now
know.
with like Crusher and stuff. Like you do all this, but one ghost thing,
What?
and that's all people remember.
You fall in love with one ghost.
I don't know
Which-
if it's the algorithm or whatever, but I've seen a lot of those memes just in the last week. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's because Picard season 3 is coming up,
Oh, right. We're going to see. That's okay. That's fair.
and you're
Yeah.
gonna see Crusher again, and they're gotta start feeding it to you.
Sometimes when these memes enter the pop culture, I'm always like concerned that it was probably started by some studio exec marketing agent, you know?
Your
I'll buy
concern
that.
is not unwarranted.
No, it's totally like valid. Yeah.
Remember when I was doing a recent rewatch of TNG, and I was thinking, you know what? Some of the premises of these episodes seem like, all right, how can we get number one to sleep with somebody? Like how do we have to write it so that Riker is getting with a certain character?
Never
Nicole
even
Baker-
thought of that on DS9.
Promiscuity of the future.
Nicole Baker says she hasn't even seen Star Wars. She's seen A New Hope, but that's it. So she hasn't
That's
seen
Star
Star
Wars.
Trek, and she's only seen A New Hope.
I mean, The New Hope is Star Wars.
Yeah, that's Star Wars. I would say it is just Star Wars.
I mean, that's the
You're
most
going to see the rest of the
important
original
movie.
trilogy.
Yeah. Just say if you've seen Star Wars, if you've seen the first one, if you've seen A New Hope, you've seen most of what you need to see. Like, I love all of Star Wars, even some of the stuff that people hate. I still love it. Well, except Rise of Skywalker. But like, you get Star Wars if you've seen A New Hope. You get it. I mean, you get everything there is to get, I think.
But you got to see Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite.
Well, yeah, Empire Strikes Back is most people's favorite.
Mhm.
I mean, it's
If
like
for no other reason than, well, spoiler alert. Actually, if you don't know by now, if you watch
Well, okay.
Family Guy, you know what I'm about to say. Well, and I'm not.
I'm actively avoiding showing my, offspring Star Wars because I don't want to ruin those surprises.
fair.
Like, I want her to be like 10, where she can kind of sort of understand what?
My brother named one of his kids Luke, and when he was a little bit older, about 8 or so, he started watching Star Wars. And after he got to the end of Empire Strikes Back, he looked at his father and said, "Is there something you need to tell me?"
So you'll like this. Friend of mine, he just had a son just a couple months ago, and I'll tell you his first and middle name. His first name is Luke. His middle name is Atreides.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Are those some famous star sci-fi references?
Those people are from Stargate, right?
You know, I actually just started to rewatch a Stargate Atlantis.
I still haven't seen Stargate. And like I've seen the original movie, obviously, but I haven't seen any of the TV shows. I've got another friend of mine, Lynn, who I do a podcast with, who's trying to get me to watch it, like from beginning to end. And I'm just, it's daunting. It's a lot of work.
You know what? I agree with Lynn.
I'll tell
Watch
him you said that.
SG-1.
That's actually my problem. When it was on, I had a friend who watched it. So I watched it when I was over at his house, but I didn't watch them sequentially.
Mhm.
And let me tell you something. It doesn't land unless. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed what I saw, but if you put a gun to my head and said, "Explain it to me," I'm like, I can't.
I had a
They
friend
do
who
some cool
asked me,
stuff, and that's about all I remember.
"Can I start with Stargate Atlantis?" And I'm like, "No, can't. You have to watch SG-1 up to like season 7 or something."
Let's see. The other big black hole in my sci-fi TV geekdom is I've never seen Babylon 5.
What?
I know, right? Like a lot. That's how I'm almost ashamed to admit it here live in front of an audience.
Okay, but I don't know what the status of it is because of all the network shuffling, but they're supposed to be remaking that.
I've heard that. Yeah, and if they do
Total
remake it,
reboot, you mean?
I think it is a remake. Like they're it's not, they're calling it a remake, not a reboot, is from what I read. And if they do, if that does go forward and they do produce it, I will watch Babylon 5 before it comes out. I will watch all of Babylon 5 because I've seen how long it is and it's actually not that bad. I could do it. It's not like Stargate. That's a much bigger investment.
It's
like
also
5
conceptualized by Harlan Ellison too, by the way.
I knew that actually.
Well, I know you knew it. I just for the purposes of other people out there.
I get very defensive about my knowledge base around you, Thrash. Baked Bean asks Jellicoe Forever or Team Riker. Now, I just watched Total Recall, so I think Jellicoe. I think the guy who was trying to blow up Mars and kill all those people. But no, Team Riker,
You know
of
what?
course.
He
I
was
mean,
just a
look, I
different
like Jellicoe.
captain.
He was fine. You get it done. He was interesting. He was a nice new take on a captain. But come on, of course it's Riker. You got to go with Riker.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna pick Riker all day over Jellicoe.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't hate Jellicoe.
Right. Is he in Prodigy? I've heard that he shows up in Prodigy, or is that just a myth?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And the same voice actor.
I don't remember the actor's name. I better figure that out before I do my review of Total Recall.
You know what? It's not safe for work. I think it's COX.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is. don't want to piss off the algorithm. Yeah.
This
Zuper.
actor's name is Creep Beep.
Zuper, who is a famous contrarian, says The Empire Strikes Back was the worst. If you really do feel that way, Zuper, you should check out a video on my channel about why The Empire Strikes Back is the worst. I'm very proud of that video.
Thrown on the gauntlet.
Yeah.
It's an excellent video.
Scott is
In
here.
fairness, I'll watch it. I will reserve judgment until I watch it.
You should watch it. I will say no more about it.
Yep.
Let's see who else. Scott's here, so hi Scott. Danny Staten is also being a contrarian, saying I didn't miss much with Babylon 5.
See, I did a rewatch with that, and it took a few years to get through it because I was trying to watch it with my, wife.
Yeah, when you're trying to rewatch a show with somebody else, it does take longer because you got to get the time.
And I kept on saying this thing to her over and over again that it was supposed to be a warning, not, this is what's going on right now.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
Feels like it's talking about the same things that are happening, except for it came out in the 90s.
Right. I think a lot of good science fiction does that, and I don't think people tend to take science fiction a little too literally. Like they're trying to predict the future. I mean, look, not every sci-fi writer is Arthur C. Clarke, okay? Like, and even he got things wrong. Um, Science fiction is usually more of a reflection of the times than it is a prediction of what will happen. It's more of just this is what we want to avoid happening or what we want to happen. It's either like a utopia or a dystopia. It's not necessarily this is what the future is. You know, that's just my personal bugaboo about science fiction.
Well, the archetype, of course, is Twilight Zone. Serling wanted to do social commentary, and the studio said, "Are you nuts? No, we're not doing that." And he goes, "Okay, fine." When he made a science fiction show and set hard-hitting, cutting-edge problems in a different setting, people gobbled it up. So he got his message out there without being labeled a communist, basically.
Right. I think the same thing with Gene Roddenberry. He found a lot
Of
more
course, of
success
course.
getting his social commentary out through Star Trek. That was the trick. And he did it in the early 60s or mid 60s. So, that wasn't exactly easy.
And I think you're right, though. I think a lot of science fiction writers do that. And
Absolutely.
we'll probably go back to it. With the cancel culture, you kind of need to have some type of diffusing situation nowadays, too.
No
What did I say
politics,
out loud?
Thrash. No politics.
Bite my tongue. Sorry.
Scott asks, has anybody seen the trailer for Hello Tomorrow? I don't even know what that is. So, no, I haven't.
I saw Goodbye yesterday.
I have not. And normally I try to keep up a bit on the
Oh.
trailers, but that is not one that I have.
It's because it's
I
on Apple Plus.
I
have
have
not
Apple
seen that
Plus, but only for Foundation, really. Like, that's the only reason I have it.
I
I
can't
have
keep up
Orange
with
Minus.
all the pluses, man.
What was the other show they had? Did they have Severance? I think Severance was on Apple Plus, and that's a really, really good show. But
They have like an alternate version of alternate history of like what would happen if we went back to the moon or whatever.
no, I mean, they might. I don't know. But no, the show Severance is about, like, it's really hard to explain simply. I don't know the elevator pitch, but it's basically like it's about an office drone, but like what they do is they insert a chip into your brain so that you live two completely separate lives. You're completely severed from your work life. So the person who you are inside the office is a completely different person than who you are on the outside. And you never you don't learn anything about each other. Like, it's a neat concept, and it's really well done in the show. And I don't want to say too much just because I want to avoid spoilers, because it's only like maybe a year old. But it's a really good show, and I highly recommend it. But you do have to have Apple Plus, which
I thought it was about a warthog with a sword. Thank you for laughing at that. I was being very silly.
Okay, there is one. It's For All Mankind.
For All
It's
Mankind.
where
You're right,
the space race never ended.
right. Keith says he misses
There's a
Emily,
question for
and
you.
yes, we all miss Emily. Wish she could be here. I don't know where she is. I can remind her, see what happens. I'll do that.
So, Eric, there's a question for you
Yeah.
about whether or not you should watch or read Foundation before watching.
I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend reading Foundation, of course. If you have to do
I
one
don't know
or
where
the
she
other,
is.
you should read it. I can
don't watch
remind
the
her,
show.
see what happens. I'll do that. Wait. Is anybody else getting double audio?
So,
or is it
Eric,
just me?
there's a question for you
Yeah.
about whether or not you should watch
There's no sound,
or
I
read
can't tell.
Foundation before watching.
I'm not getting any double audio.
I
right
wouldn't
now, not
recommend
at least
it.
in my headset.
Me neither.
I would recommend reading Foundation.
Do you still
of
get
course.
it?
If you have to
yeah,
do
hold
one
on, it
or
might
the
be on
other,
my end.
you should read. Okay, there it is. I got it. I fixed it. My problem. Tech support.
What?
No, you should, if you're gonna read Foundation or watch the show, read the Foundation. Reading it is better than watching the show. The show, I like the show, but it's not Foundation. But if you have read Foundation and it's been a while and it's not like fresh in your mind too much, then you can watch the show and it'll be okay. You won't mind too much. But if you have just read Foundation and you know all the details, it's going to bother you a lot because it messes with it. It messes with the story pretty substantially. I don't know. That's all I can say, really. Like I
On a scale of Ender's Game movie, where we at?
I Am Legend.
No, God, no. It's so much better than I Am Legend. I like it as an adaptation. I have some quibbles with it, and there's some things I would do differently. But at the end of the day, I think it's still a really good show, and I think it's worth a watch. So it's better than I Am Legend. It's better than what was the other one you said? I already forgot. My brain is not working.
Ender's Game.
Oh, Ender's Game. It's better than Ender's Game, which I didn't despise, but I've never watched it again. I watched it when it came out in theaters, and that's it. I never saw it a second time. So I couldn't have liked it that much. Oh, Nicole is apparently leaving. So bye, Nicole.
Ciao for now.
Have a good Sunday. Baked Bean asks, what did Voyager do right? Silence is deafening.
Anyone?
The Delta Flyer. Because it was that cool, like, we're in a different spot that requires different things than our little shuttle pods. Let's put together as a crew. And it continues.
Right.
You see it over and over again, not just that one episode.
That's true. Yeah, that's nice. It's been a while since I've watched Voyager.
Okay, and they did... It was like 2 episodes. It should have been a season if Ronald D. Moore had his way.
Right.
the like 2-episode arc where they are the time keeps getting set.
Oh yeah,
Over
that was
and
pretty
over
good. I
again.
remember that. Yeah, I liked that.
And it completely changes the fabric of space and what's going on. That's
that was
a
neat.
great couple of things. So what Voyager did right was all of the 2-part episodes.
I really liked the setup for Voyager. I just wish they had done more with it. Like, they set this up that they have all this moral conflict within this mixed crew of Maquis and Federation, and they're all the way on the other side of the galaxy. If they'd actually like run with that instead of, oh, now we're all friends, no big deal, no drama, then I think it would have been a way more interesting show. But instead they just like papered over all of that within like an episode. And I don't know, that always bugged me about it. Like, Chakotay should have been a more confrontational character. Instead, he's just kind of there, you know?
After the second season, yeah, Robert Beltran and Chakotay, they take a seat.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I understand that 7 of 9 came on more as a desperation move than anything else, but I do like 7 of 9. I think she's the best thing about Voyager. And I also think she's one of the best things about Picard, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they started actually going into the premise that we can't reset every episode because we're trying to get home.
Exactly, yeah.
That's when Voyager gets better.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was set up in that Deep Space Nine style that it was going to be a serialized story, that it was going to be one long story. But instead, they tried to make it episodic, and it didn't work. It just didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they brought in the Borg, and they made the Borg too much of the focus of the show. I don't think they handled the Borg very well. I'll say that.
It makes the Borg less threatening. When you first meet them, they're unstoppable.
Yeah.
And then you see them again, and you learn some more things about them. And then you see them in First Contact, and that's like one Borg cube versus a fleet.
Right.
And then now you have Voyager, one ship versus fleets of
all
cubes.
of the Borg, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they introduce species X, whatever. I don't even remember the numbers.
8417.
8417, thank you. Who are a neat idea, but not very well realized. And the special effects are not up to par. Like, those computer graphics are terrible. But it was the 90s. What can you do? Mm-hmm. Hello Tomorrow, according to Scott, stars Billy Crudup in a 50s style futurism made real, while still living in Leave It to Beaver. A company is selling Living on the Moon, but are there any shenanigans? Okay, so it's kind of like, yeah, it's like Tomorrowland meets Fallout or something. I don't know.
He's just redoing Doctor Manhattan. This is just an alternate reality for Doctor Manhattan.
All right, good point.
With Billy Crudup.
Oh, Baked Bean also says he likes the Doctor. I agree. The Doctor is probably the second best thing about Voyager. Yeah, but Baked Bean also says all the good Maquis stuff was done by DS9, and I agree. With Eddington, who was in Krull. I didn't realize that until very recently.
Oh, the actor?
The actor, Krull? Yeah. Yeah, it's the same actor who was like the lead in Krull. He doesn't look anything like him anymore, but he's the same guy. Baked Bean's also giving a lot of love to Q, which, of course.
Okay, wait. What about Q in season 2 of Picard? Do we like old Vengeance Q, or, you know...
I kind of like what they were going for with Q in Picard season 2, but I'm not sure it worked. See, all that I said about Voyager, about it being not being too episodic, I think Picard season 2 had the opposite problem. It was that one big story didn't really fill a whole season, and it was just like treading water a lot. And I think the thing with Q, if they made like one arc with Q and then another arc with the Borg, I think it would have been a better show.
Yes.
So, yeah. There was one episode of Q in Voyager that I thought was pretty terrible.
Only one?
I can only remember one. I don't really... I haven't watched Voyager in years. That is the Star Trek show I'm the least likely to watch. It is my least favorite. I can admit that. Without shame. Oh, hi, Lance. Lance is here. How's it going?
Lancelot.
Always a regular. Scott asks, does anybody have a favorite Doctor from Doctor Who? Now,
you guys go first, because you know my answer.
I'm gonna go with David Tennant. I haven't watched a whole lot of Doctor Who. I'm not like well steeped in Doctor Who, but I like David Tennant. If I had to go a second one, it would be Christopher Eccleston, even though he was only in it for a little while. I thought he was an interesting take on the character. Otherwise, I don't know. I haven't watched enough of it to have an opinion.
I don't know either. I actually came late to the game for Doctor Who. I started watching, I think, with Matt Smith, and then I went back and watched Eccleston and Tennant.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really got hooked, not necessarily with Matt Smith as the Doctor, but really just like, I guess, the interaction between the Doctor, Amy Pond, and Rory and stuff. That was really my introduction to Doctor Who. So I guess I have a soft spot for that. But going back, going from Matt Smith and then watching like Eccleston was kind of a little bit different. But I enjoyed Eccleston a lot more as I was getting into the season or whatever. I guess as you say, the first season of like the newer Doctor Who stuff. Kind of thing too. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people rave about Tennant. I mean, Tennant's good. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are happy Tennant back in like Doctor Who and stuff right now. But
right.
I would say the long answer, make sure I think it's Matt Smith, just because that was kind of like my introduction to it.
Yeah, a lot of people say the first Doctor is their Doctor, like whoever you watched it as.
And to be fair, the first Doctor I ever saw was David Tennant. So.
For me, I split it into Classic Who and New Who.
New Who.
Tom Baker is the definitive Doctor. He really is. Oh,
it's hard to argue.
I don't know if he's.
I think he agrees with you.
Tom Baker.
I have a tell. What Doctor. Can I say? That's why I don't play cards. Oh, but he said. What he said.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just like say what he said,
Okay. Of the New Who, I love Peter Capaldi. I think he was let down massively by writing, but like his doctor is amazing.
I can appreciate that. I kind of feel the same way about Pierce Brosnan as James Bond.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say.
Well, you've already spoiled it.
All-time favorite Tom Baker, who just had a birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Mr. Doctor Who. And for the new Who, I love that, but I'm going to say new Who from now on. I'm going to steal that. For the new Who, I also would go with David Tennant. I think he just captured the perfect blend of competency and snarky humor. I thought he really just he brought it together. So of the new Who, I'd go with Tennant.
My friend Adam is here, and he says his wife also loves Tennant. So a lot of love for David Tennant here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think if you did a poll, you would find Tenet on top of
it is the safe answer.
pretty much everyone's favorite doctor.
It's either going to be Tom Baker or it's going to be David Tennant. Those are like the two main answers. Zuper's talking about John Delancey. I actually met John Delancey at a con. I was in high school, and a friend of mine, who shall remain unnamed, actually chased him into the bathroom for an autograph and got kicked out of the con. And he wanted me to go with him because he was getting kicked out by security. I'm like, you did this to yourself. I'm staying. Bye. You're going to have to walk home because I was his ride.
He's lucky he wasn't arrested.
I know. He was just like, you're Q! Q! I don't know that guy. I don't know him.
He was in Breaking Bad too, you know.
Was he really?
Yes, he played one of Jesse's erstwhile girlfriend's father.
I must have noticed it when it happened, but I don't remember it.
He's also in Torchwood.
That's true. I did know he was in Torchwood. Yeah. The question is, Lance, was Q gay? Q was omniscient. The sexuality of Q doesn't really matter.
I got to throw this out there. How many people now? Of course, remember there was that one episode where the Q were fighting a civil war. Forget the name of it, but he ends up
Q something.
having he ends up having a Q child with another Q. All right.
Right.
My question is, how many of you TOS fans think the Squire Trelane was in fact Q's progeny?
Absolutely. There's even like an extended universe novel about that very premise.
Oh.
Yeah. It's one of the few Star Trek books I've actually read. So, it's cool. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you watch that episode of TOS, he's obviously a Q. Like, they don't give him a name, they don't call him a Q, but he's the exact same characterization. Like, he's the exact same kind of character. So I think Q is probably based on him, at least unconsciously, if not consciously. Yeah.
Especially when you consider that the first episode of TNG is all Gene Roddenberry.
That's true. Yeah. And I did like that Q was kind of like this recurring foil for Next Generation. I think Q is at his best in Next Generation, obviously. I did like when he showed up on Deep Space Nine and Cisco just punched him. That was fun.
I recently saw a meme about this because they're coming out of the woodworks.
Of course, yep.
And it's like all the log entries from all the captains who have ever met Q. And it's just this one single line for Cisco. Q came to DS9. I punched him.
That's great. I don't think Q was in the closet, Zuper. I really don't. Like he obviously had the hots for Picard, but again, he's omniscient. He's all across the sexuality spectrum, like from one end to the other. Just like he's Q. So
well, the thing is, Q doesn't have to show up as John Delancey.
That's true. He can be anybody. Yeah,
can be anybody.
Any gender
or anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just how we perceive them. So yeah, it's an excellent point.
And he also says that because TNG chronologically is after the original series, that theory doesn't make sense. But again, Q is omniscient and travels through time very easily. So it does not destroy that theory, not at all. In fact, that's kind of his thing.
All it means is
moving
that
people through time.
Toussaint doesn't say he's part of the Q continuum, so there's no log entry or anything saying
Right. It's just, yeah, but how many different completely omniscient godlike beings are there out there that can create anything with a snap of their fingers? In Star Trek,
Well, there were the Organians too.
I was about to say, in Star Trek, fair, there's more than one.
But I don't think the Organians were all powerful. I think they were heading in that direction. They were probably the missing link between human and Q, if you
Right.
want me to like put a point on it.
And then there was that one guy who created genocide just by a thought. He like killed an entire species.
Well, yeah.
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 And Picard just had to say, we don't know what to do with that, so we're just going to leave you alone.
I'd like to apologize for all of the Star Trek talk, but I'm not going to.
No, we don't do that on this channel.
I feel no need to apologize. And I'm sorry for that.
But no,
Is
if we
the superior franchise, Matt?
we can talk about Star Wars if you want, Matt. It's fine.
That's fine. No, I'm good. Like I said, when we were talking before, I don't think you have to be like one or the other. I am
No, not
definitely
at all.
of the thing that I like both Star Wars and Star Trek.
Me too. I mean, I've got Yoda right there.
Well, I mean, let's face facts. Most people who saw Star Wars in its first run, and I'm dating myself again, you probably wouldn't have gone to see the movie if you weren't a fan of Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Fair
You know?
point. Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
yeah.
It's one of those rivalries I just don't really understand, and I don't think that it's all that real. I don't know if I've
No.
ever come across a fan of one who is not a fan of the other outside of the internet, because the internet is awful. But like in real life,
I was gonna say it's the toxic fandom.
yeah, there's
That's
definitely
the
toxic
problem.
fans out there. But in real life, I haven't
both
encountered
sides.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to a few Star Trek conventions, and I've been to a Star Wars celebration, and yeah, I've never encountered any hate for the other franchise, like there in person. So, but I also like in a con, you're there with a bunch of fans who are just happy to be fans.
Yep.
and
Exactly.
You don't get the toxicity you get on the internet, and that's one of the great things about cons.
Yep.
Kind of restores your faith in humanity a little.
Mhm.
Yeah, Scott says he's star by. That's funny. Andor is fantastic, by the way. It is probably my favorite Star Wars thing in a really long time. And
I would agree.
I love
Because
Star
I would
Wars.
say Rogue One was probably my best like Disney thing before Andor came out.
And Andor is
Rogue One
basically
was
just
without a
more
doubt.
Rogue One. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Andor is without a doubt the best Disney Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to talk about The Last Jedi, don't worry. But But no, Andor is fantastic, and if you haven't watched it and you like Star Wars, absolutely watch Andor. I think a lot of people had started to give up on Disney Star Wars, and I think you really should go back to Andor, at least, if nothing else.
I'm just hoping that Disney continues on because I had a kind of line of thought where I liked a lot of the stuff like that Dave Filoni was doing. I liked the idea, because I really enjoyed Clone Wars. I enjoyed, Rebels when I got going. I liked The Mandalorian. And so I like the idea of like Filoni having his fingers in a lot of stuff going on with Star Wars. Andor made me realize too that I also like seeing different stuff with Star Wars. We don't need like everything to be Filoni verse Star Wars. Like Star Wars is big enough, like the fandom of Star Wars, people like Star Wars for different reasons. It's a big enough fandom that there's room for like Andor that's a little bit different than something say like the Mandalorian stuff. I think it's okay for them to both coexist.
No, and thematically, it's definitely a lot. It's kind of like Deep Space Nine in that it is a lot darker than other Star Wars, but it still has the same underlying idea. So yeah, actually didn't think of that until just now, but it's a good metaphor.
Sci-fi on the fly.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, just reading the comments.
Actually,
Actually,
Q does show up in present time in the last season of Picard.
Picard, yeah. Maybe he shouldn't have, but he does.
but he does. Just answering the question.
Picard also does that thing that I think Star Wars does too often, in that, like, in Star Wars, the big meme is that everything happens on Tatooine and everything's about Jedi, which is one of the great things about Andor. It's about neither.
Yep.
But I think Picard kind of does the same thing where everything has to be related to Picard. Like, he goes into the past and he runs into Guinan, which I still have some timeline confusion questions about, because shouldn't they have already met? But then the timeline changed. But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I was going with that, but that was the point I was trying to make, I think. Just that Picard was... The story was too many... There was too many coincidences. Too many things. Like, it has to do with Picard's daughter, and he has to deal with his past, and it's just all these things all converge on Picard, which I understand what they're doing for the sake of the show, but it's a little too much to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly.
He's changed his last name.
You're right. That's the great thing about Q. Anytime there's a time discrepancy, Q changes the timeline.
Yeah, basically.
It's like watching Xena. Oh, that was a wizard. A wizard changed it for some reason. That was a wizard. It was a different horse. A wizard.
So
you have a cloak of invincibility.
KF asks, what are you looking forward to in 2023? He's waiting. They are waiting for Dune Part 2 and Spider-Man Across the Universe. Those are both great choices. I'm definitely looking forward to Dune Part 2. I don't know why they hadn't already started filming when they released the first part, but whatever.
Money.
Yes, money.
Well, I think that's part of it too, because when Denis Villeneuve, when he did like Blade Runner, even though I would say a lot of us really enjoyed his Blade Runner with like from sci-fi and stuff, it didn't really bring in, like Rachel said, like the money that they were expecting for something like that. So I think they're just kind of like, all right, Denis, we'll let you do this Dune, but we'll see how this movie goes if we want to back the full project.
Well, that does make sense, because his other movies, like even Arrival, and even going back further than that, like Enemy and stuff like that, and Sicario, these were movies that were loved by critics and did like great on the art critic front, but in terms of box office success, I don't think any of them were really all that successful. And yeah, Blade Runner was basically a financial flop. So it does make sense, I guess. I see your point. I don't like it, though.
Actually.
Me neither. I don't like it either.
Zuper says the unfortunate failure of Star Trek is that they never exploited the Sulu character to its maximum potential. Maybe?
I wouldn't call it a failure, but I would say that there was a lot more there they could have went into.
They could have definitely done more with Sulu than they did. I really liked when he showed up at the beginning of Star Trek 6 as a captain of the Excelsior. That was pretty cool.
I heard that was because the whole feud going on between Georgica and Shatner, he couldn't even bear to be on set with him at that time. So they said, what, we're going to give you your own command, so you'll never have to actually be on set at the same time.
I've heard that. Yeah,
I don't know if that's true, but it fits.
It definitely fits. Like, it seems true. Like, whether or not it actually is, I buy it.
But it worked. It's one of those weird things that external pressures helped make the movie better.
Well, it's the same thing with Wrath of Khan. They couldn't get Ricardo Montalban's schedule and William Shatner's schedule aligned, so they never actually appear on screen together in the film. And I think it actually works to the film's benefit. I think if they had shared the screen together at any point, I don't think it would have worked. Because in the original script, they actually have a fist fight at some point. I think that would have probably been dumb.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Khan too, because Ricardo Montalban was hurt in a horseback riding accident or something, which gave him back problems the rest of his life.
Yeah.
When you see the original TOS episode, he's always swaggering, like he has his hand on his back and he's sort of like walking like a pirate and stuff. That's because the accident was fairly contemporary at that time. And I guess he did that episode with excruciating back pain, but was a professional and got through it.
Right.
But he actually made it part of his swagger, which I thought was very
When you think about that episode and the fact that there's a fight scene between Khan, Kirk, and Spock, and then you know about the back injury, like, he was a pro.
And with a back injury, the Kirk special of doing that to somebody's back would actually work. So now I've got the fight music in my head. Yeah.
Sirach the Slayer is probably right. Disney does seem to do a better job right now with all of their new Star Wars characters than they do with any of the legacy stuff. And
yeah,
I don't know.
I think they're right. I think he's right.
I don't know what the problem is. Because there's tons of stuff out there and there's tons of ways they could have taken those legacy characters and they just said none of that.
I think Disney, when it comes to the legacy characters, they're afraid to take risks. And I think that shows in a lot of their business decisions, like firing directors who want to do something a little different with their legacy characters. I mean, and you look at something like Solo.
Zulu Solo.
And
Tomato.
again, they're just playing it safe. It is basically a by the numbers story of Han Solo. And it basically tells the same character arc of Han Solo as Star Wars. It's not a bad movie by any stretch. Like I like Solo, but it's a nothing movie. It's completely it's fast food. It does nothing for the character or the story or anything. So I think that's the problem, is that they don't want to take risks. I mean, even when they were originally going to do a Boba Fett thing with what's his name, Joshua Trank, and then they decided that was too risky. Then they went ahead and did The Mandalorian as a way of not doing Boba Fett. And then, of course, later they do Boba Fett. And, well, we all know what happened there. So, yeah.
Boba Fett.
And even in Boba Fett, they couldn't stick to it. They had to be The Mandalorian for like 2 episodes.
Yep. And in my opinion, those were the best episodes.
They were,
too,
yeah.
Boba Fett.
Absolutely. Speaking of Tatooine.
Yeah.
How many Outer Rim planets are there? Just the one?
Yeah, it's just Tatooine. That's it.
Oh, wait, sorry. Jakku.
Oh, well, yeah.
Definitely not Tatooine.
It's totally not Tatooine. It's completely different. Disney's
Are you
biggest.
watching The Bad Batch? I haven't watched any of the new Bad Batch yet. Just the last season.
The third, I'm caught up right now. I think there's 4 episodes right now. The first week had 2 episodes. I think we've had 2 other weeks of it. I really enjoyed the 3rd episode for anyone who's watched the Bad Batch. But yeah, I've been keeping up on Bad Batch. I like that one.
Yeah, I like the first season a lot. I really need to get on that horse.
I'm still trying to make my way through Rebels, so I'm way behind.
Yeah. Rebels, I've noticed quite a few of these. Randall and I, we've talked about this too. Like even like Clone Wars, I think the first season was kind of hard a little bit to get into. I think a lot of like with Filoni's animated stuff, there's a lot of good payoffs. I think it takes a while to get into it. Like Rebels too, the first season takes a little bit to get into, but there's gems in later seasons that are some of like my favorite, like Star Wars and like all of Star Wars. I before Andor came out, I would say my favorite thing Disney did was probably the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, but they're so good because I watched all the rest of Clone Wars and I finally get those payoffs in those last 4 episodes. So I would say, yeah, Rebels is good for parts. I mean, it's something that does take a little bit to get into. And I won't say necessarily like filler episodes, but there's like other episodes that, fun and make to it, but there's other parts, to get into that have like really good payoffs.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Thrash gets really quiet when we talk about Star Wars.
I think it's more the new Star Wars, yeah.
Full disclosure, I haven't seen much of the new stuff. I'm kind of the whole purist thing. So when I actually can't key in on something, I learned this the hard way years ago. If you don't know what something is, don't try to talk about it. Let others talk about it.
Right.
So absorb what they're saying. Because you never want to look like a poser,
Yeah.
And Lord, did I learn that the hard way. Oh,
Okay.
What do you think, Thrash?
Here's
But
a
he
good
said-
purish Star Wars conversation for you then. The original series or trilogy has been re-released, quote unquote re-released, as the unspecialized edition. Have you heard of that?
No, I didn't know they re-released it. So they took all the new special effects and stuff out and re-released it
Okay,
as the...
but it's fan made. And they did. They went through and they took all the special edition stuff out. And they went through and they changed the audio back to the old audio and cleaned it all up. And I won't watch Star Wars any other way. It is sublime.
I'm a bit of a purist myself. No, I don't mind like when I'm like channel surfing and I'm seeing one of the remastered redid. I don't mind it. I usually just kind of like gloss over the like, yeah, well that's not right, but okay, it's on there. I take it all with a grain of salt. But I must tell you, I would be with you. I would certainly prefer the originals. In fact, I believe I still have on videotape. I have existing copies of all three of the original films. So I would probably just break those out because I just bought another VCR to Salvation Army.
Nice.
I have
Nice.
hundreds of videotapes. I'm not going to give up on them. So,
I still have my
I keep
VHS
those-
player, and I still use it for a couple of movies that I can't find on DVD, like the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. For some reason, I can't find that on DVD, which is weird. But I still have like bootleg DVDs of the old school Star Wars from years and years ago. I bought them at a con, so
Nice.
and yeah, that's the only way I watch it. I don't hate the special editions. I mean, Jedi Rocks notwithstanding, that's terrible. I think the Bespin stuff in Empire Strikes Back, I think the Bespin stuff is actually really good. I think that's like the one great thing they did with the special editions. But everything else, I could give or take, whatever. Oh, and I don't like Jabba. Jabba looks weird in New Hope. That's bizarre. Han me boogie.
Okay. The new Java. Okay, that's the one thing that I wish that they still had in the original.
But
was that small scene between Han and Jabba.
he still should have been like a big Scottish guy in the fur coat. Like that's the way I would do it.
Yep.
He's not made his transformation into a slug yet, or sandworm yet.
Right. He still hasn't drunk enough slurm. Yeah.
Now, that would be
Super says
something to see.
VCRs are a dime a dozen. Pretty much.
I don't think they are so cheap anymore, though.
I got this one for $5 at the Salvation Army.
That's not so
I
bad.
buy used stuff. I figure I'll get a few years out of it, and then if you look in my bridge, which is what I call my man cave, the bridge, one of the nicknames I have for it is the Valley of Obsolescence, which I shamelessly stole from Harlan Ellison, and it's because it is a treasure trove of archaic technology. I have about 10 old style console TVs, and each one has its own purpose. I got a game system attached to a different game system attached to like 3 of them. I got one that only plays Night of the Living Dead because the DVD tray broke on it. I can't get the disc out.
It's still in there.
So all it does is play Night of the Living Dead, which is fine for me because I can watch Night of the Living Dead once a week for the rest of my life and not get bored with it. And then I got VCRs and DVD players attached to the rest of them. And I'm
For
still
more
buying
on-
new stuff because
For more on Thrash's opinion on Night of the Living Dead, check out my video where he's on it and we watch it together.
And do you know that in that video, I wasn't getting the movie.
Yeah, you
I
were
was
just going, you're just
involved.
riffing. Yeah.
And I was doing it from memory.
Awesome.
From memory.
I mean, there's plenty of movies I could do that. Ghostbusters for sure. I don't need to watch Ghostbusters ever again in my life, but I will.
I can pretty much
Just for
quote
laughs.
Aliens from first line to last. I had a friend of
I'm a
mine.
big fan. I don't know if I could quote it.
I had a friend of mine, like, that's just what we used to do when I was a teenager. We would just start quoting Aliens. Like, we would pick a scene and just go. I don't know why. It's just a thing to do.
I think I know Monty Python, the Holy Grail better than Eric Idle.
KF asks, what are your favorite animated sci-fi movie or show? And he lists Titan AE, Evangelion. I can never say that right. Evangelion, etc.
Evangelion.
Thank you, Evangelion.
Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Right. For me, I don't know. It's really hard to say. Since I focus on like classic sci-fi a lot, it's kind of hard. There's not a whole lot of classic animated sci-fi. I mean, there's Fantastic Planet and Heavy Metal, stuff like that. But more recently, I'd have to think on it for a little while. And if you include anime, you've got like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, the classics. I love all those.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for like something that's past that 30-year animated sci-fi-ish,
Yeah.
maybe for October for you, Vampire Hunter D.
Oh, there
It's
we
like
go.
1985 or something.
That'd be a good
like that,
choice. Yeah.
if you
I
haven't
will-
seen it.
I haven't actually. I will put it on the list right now, live on stream.
Like I said, that's
My
more.
favorite animated
That might be
sci-fi. Go ahead, sorry.
well. That might be good for like your Halloween.
Yeah, in
your
October I do
October
horror
stuff.
movies. Yeah. And if I get my stuff together this summer, I'm hoping that I can have one for every week in October. So I can have a review. Instead of every other week, I'll have a review every single week. But I have to start really early to get that done. Which, knowing me, I won't be
Favorite
able
feature film, I would have to go with Wizards.
to. I knew you were going to say that.
How could you not? And as far as television, I'd say Robert Ridley's Flash Gordon from the 70s. I love that series when I was a kid. And if you want to talk new stuff, I don't know if any of you guys have seen this. I highly recommend it if you haven't. It's called Love, Death, and Robots. It's available on Netflix.
Speaking of heavy metal, it's
Haven't
like the
watched
spiritual
it, but I
sequel to
do
heavy metal.
wanna watch it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think it actually grew out of David Fincher wanting to remake heavy metal, wanting to do a modern heavy metal, and then eventually it just morphed into Love, Death, and Robots. Yeah, that is a good one. Good choice.
Thank you. Yeah, I do watch some new stuff. Speaking of which, not to go off topic, have any of you guys
We're on a topic.
seen the first episode of The Last of Us?
Yes. It's.
Thoughts?
I like it a lot, but it's basically just the show, or basically just the game. It's exactly the same.
Listen, if Halo could have done that, I would have
Good
been
point.
immediately so happy.
And people are saying this proves that you can do a video game adaptation right, and I'm like, no, it proves that if your video game's already basically a movie, you can do an adaptation.
I would go with that too, because I think Naughty Dog with their games are like interactive movies. Like
Exactly.
the Nathan Drake games were Uncharted. Like I mean, I watched a video before where they had like Harrison Ford watching like a playthrough of one of the Uncharted games or whatever, and
Yeah.
he was pretty much saying like that's pretty much a movie.
It's already a movie, yeah.
And yet the movie,
Yeah.
I have a
And yet.
theory. It might be too early to tell. I think the reason that the first episode was literally scene for scene was I think they were sci fans can be very, very, very uppity, for want of a better term.
Really?
And when
I
you
hadn't
start changing
noticed.
stuff, when you start changing stuff, they go, "Oh, they got that wrong. They got that wrong. They got that wrong. They got that wrong." So I think they wanted to start off on the right foot and give everybody everything right, you could say. I have a working theory that as we see more of it, much like they did with The Walking Dead before it went off the rails. Don't get me started. But it
That
will
seems to always
start
come
to,
up on my streams.
particularly when you got me. But I think there's going to be some creative divergence for the sake of drama that you might see. But I think they had to start off giving their fan base exactly what they wanted, which
Yep.
was the game mini movie. But
Okay,
we'll have
Scott.
to watch and find out now, won't we?
Scott's leaving.
Yep.
Bye, Scott. He's gotta go to church. That's what happens. That's
Bye.
what happens when I stream on Sundays.
Peace, Scott.
all right. I don't want to supersede my previous answer in a video to what my favorite anime was, but if I remember correctly, it's Death Note. I love Death Note.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Death Note. That's great.
It just does such a good job, and I know some people hate that hard cut between like after L and
Yeah.
what happens after that, but for me, it's like that makes that series a little bit fresh. It's like, all right, we're not just going to keep going with the same thing over and over again. Now we're getting into the end game.
I was really impressed. This is something that a lot of people don't like, but this is a video game. It's not a TV movie adaptation at all. But the remake of Final Fantasy VII, how at some point in the story during the remake of Final Fantasy VII, they start talking about breaking fate. And then from that point on, the story completely diverges because they've broken fate, so they've broken the story. So it's like this meta explanation for why it's diverging so much from the source material, and now anything's possible. And I think that's really that was kind of clever. I liked that. The game itself, it's okay.
I was talking with someone recently about there's supposed to be a remake of KOTOR.
Yeah, they've been saying that for a while.
But it's not supposed to be like a remaster of KOTOR. It's supposed to be a remake.
Like a full-on remake.
Like because Disney will never allow them to make a Star Wars game that doesn't fit within their world building. So it has to be a remake.
Yeah, you're probably right. Which probably also means
everything you loved about KOTOR,
you're probably not going to get.
matter.
HK is probably going to be nerfed. He's going to be nicer. You're not going to be able to be evil in the end. Yeah, you're probably right. But going back to The Last of Us, I was really impressed by the actress that got to play Ellie, like the girl. That's the thing I was the most worried about because child actors, you never know. But man, she nails it. She's exactly like Ashley Johnson, the actress who played her in the game. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised by that. And it ended with a Depeche Mode song, which if you know me, you know that'll get my attention.
If you saw the way that actress was in Game of Thrones as Lady Mormont,
yeah, I did.
You wouldn't worry at all.
Yeah, but I always wonder. I always worry whenever child actresses are involved.
I jokingly
called from Game of Thrones too. I like the fact that they got two
yeah.
people from Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a
wise
move.
I have yet to see Pedro Pascal in something I don't like. Like it hasn't happened yet. And I've seen him in a lot.
I don't know that I liked necessarily Wonder Woman 84, but I think I liked Pedro Pascal in Wonder Woman 84.
I repressed Wonder Woman 84, to be fair.
Well said.
But yeah, Pedro Pascal does great.
He's one of the best things about that movie, which isn't saying anything.
I know at the very beginning, there was brought up Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or whatever. He is good in that film as well too. Of those that they were mentioned at the beginning, that was the one that I did see. And that was fun or whatever. I mean, if you're big into like Nick Cage and like all the different movies that Nick Cage's been in, you'll like that one. But I don't know that I've seen a performance of Pedro Pascal that I didn't enjoy.
And in The Last of Us, he's doing a really good job of channeling the Joel character. Instead of being the Pedro Pascal we all expect him to be, he's more in line with the character from the game, which I think is impressive. So he's avoiding the typecasting hole, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, somebody mentioned Cowboy Bebop earlier. Of course, I love Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop is
great. Who doesn't love
excellent.
Cowboy Bebop? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to talk about the Netflix version.
Cowboy Bebop, the anime, is excellent.
Yes. Well, we're pushing on an hour and a half, and that's usually when I start to wind it down. So, No Market Media guys, Matt, Randall, talk about yourselves a little bit more. Just advertise yourself. Just shamelessly plug yourself. Go for it.
Shamelessly plug my.
Well,
that doesn't seem that is going to be safe for the stream.
As you guys probably know, Matt, I'm a little bit more into like Star Wars stuff. Randall, a lot into like Star Trek. Randall's like my go-to Star Trek knowledge. If I need Star Trek stuff, I feel like some of my other friends, like they think I know a bit about Star Trek, but it's all stuff that I've gotten, from Randall and stuff too. So, a lot of our discussion stuff, we try to draw parallels and stuff to like Star Wars and Star Trek. We can't help it. This is two of our, things that we're most, I guess, into or whatever. But, we like doing sci-fi, fantasy, drama. Randall's a bit more of a horror person than I am. I think that is another thing too. I'm not someone that was really into horror all that much, but I think Randall has got me a bit more into it.
First time he watched the original Dawn of Dead,
Wow.
and he loved it. So, if you go to our channel, which we haven't posted on in a while, which admittedly, we do have some things that are actually already filmed. And then we're gonna finish our sport trilogy here with Tin Cup.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different. Is like we don't just concentrate on Star Wars and Star Trek. We'll do TV shows, we'll do movies and stuff like that, and it'll be across all sorts of genres.
I love when you guys cover your guilty pleasures.
That was a fun series.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have watched all of my guilty pleasures this year. Well,
Excellent.
Whatever, 2022.
Mhm.
You know, that's why they're guilty pleasures, just to sit there and watch them. And Deep Rising is way better than people give it credit for.
I also watched Mystery Alaska on your guys' recommendation. Good movie. Liked it.
And what'd you think of that?
I thought it was great. A lot of fun.
They were perky.
Definitely. And yes, if you don't have a beard, you can't be on my channel. I'm sorry, unless you're a woman. So, and even then, beard is maybe not required, but maybe requested.
Preferred.
Preferred. There you go. So, Thrash, what have you got going?
I thought you'd never ask. So I have a YouTube channel where I do. It's a nostalgia channel. Vintage sci-fi and horror. I'm a huge horror buff too. Preferred film, TV, literature, but I also do some other fun stuff too. I delve into some old classic vintage comic books. I do some stuff on classic music as well. But the thing a lot of people have the most fun with, I have a series of collections of dad jokes, and I do the top 10 dad jokes in recorded history, and have repeated the process over and over and over again, because the more I delve into it, the more I realize just how many classic dad jokes there are. And I also do live chats on Thursdays, but lately, as I've had some more time off, I've been doing them occasionally on Tuesdays as well. And we basically just all get together and talk about old nostalgia experiences and fun stuff from TV, film, and music.
Yeah, and his dad joke videos in particular, I highly recommend. And a lot of my fans have already started going to your live chats. So, and some of my friends even. So,
Listen, we're follically challenged. All right, Thrash, I have a question for you before we have end.
Yeah.
Anything.
You're into horror.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch *Malignant*?
I have not.
Well, I'll
I
just
have
shut up
not. Should I?
You like giallo horror, don't you?
then. I'm gonna.
I'm a huge fan of giallo.
Then you should watch
As I've always
Malignant.
said, there's always room for giallo.
Yes. Then you should definitely watch *Malignant*. You'll get it. I think a lot of people don't get it.
Yep. Yeah, that's why
I
we
shall.
don't want to say too much about it if you
If you haven't
seen
seen
it.
it,
I can't. Yeah.
I'm not
I
gonna
shall
say
watch it
anything.
and get back to you.
Yeah.
Deal.
we do have our review of it when we watched it in theaters when it came out. Well, streaming. I think that was a streaming one. But
I don't remember, but yeah, I mean, I remember your review of it. But I remember when I saw it, like a lot of other people, I went in expecting one kind of movie, and it's a different kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of people were not pleasantly surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was great. In fact, I watched it about a month ago. I rewatched it. Still great.
It's one of those movies that you keep thinking about after you watch it. Like, my mind keeps going back to more and more of that film.
Yeah, I think even if you don't like it, you're gonna keep thinking about it.
Mind
Thrash,
warm.
someone demands a dad joke.
Dad joke? Okay. Off the top of my head. Have you heard about the Neanderthal who invented the propeller?
No.
No? He has a huge fan club.
Yep, Thrash, I'm a sucker for dad jokes.
He's got a million of them, literally.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Glad
yeah,
to
I
be of
don't have to.
service.
I don't have to plug my channel. If you're watching this, you're already on my channel. But I will say, as I hinted at earlier, I am working on a review of Total Recall right now. So look forward to that. It's actually my 100th sci-fi classic review. I can't believe I've made 100 of them. It's crazy.
Wow.
And that doesn't even count my like horror classic reviews that I've been doing. So yeah, I had a vote on my Patreon about like what movie I should cover for my 100th episode, and Total Recall's the one they picked. So that's what we're gonna do. Other than that, I don't know. I'm still trying to catch up because if you've been following my channel, you know I've been fighting a nasty cold for the last month or so. It's finally gone. I finally feel totally healthy now. So hopefully I'll catch up and I'll get back on those Outer Limits reviews and stuff like that. So look forward to that. I'm not going to promise when they come out because I'm not ready yet to do that. But yeah, that's all I got. And check out Thrash and No Market Media, of course. Give them all the love. They need more subscribers. I need more subscribers too, but you know they. After you're done subscribing to my channel, subscribe to their channels too. And I think we're gonna call it. We could easily keep talking about Star Trek and Star Wars all day long if we wanted to, but you know some of us have jobs. So yeah, nice seeing you all. Love to see people in the comments. Lots of familiar faces, and yeah, catch you next time. Never be ashamed of what you love, as long as you're not hurting anybody. And
I'm Randall. I'll see everyone next
Yeah,
time.
thanks for having us.